Uh, as is the practice with all our virtual open houses, we will be recording this meeting and posting it on the Kitchissippi Ward YouTube channel by the end of the week. So anyone interested can either write our office for the link, or you can just search Kitchissippi Ward on YouTube and find it directly. And of course, if you aren't comfortable being recorded on video, please feel free to just turn off the button at the bottom left-hand side of your screen. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to the applicant team so they can begin their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Reed. I'm the architect for the proponent, and I'll just be sharing my screen. I'm going to bring up the presentation that we have for you. Oh, disabled share, host disabled attendee.
No,
so
one sec.
Just need some permission, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just going to do that. Okay. Okay.
Try that again. Okay, here we go.
Work? Okay.
I think so. Can you see my screen now? Can you see a presentation?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Let me try that again.
Let's see.
I'm going to try advanced sharing options. Just once.
Here, I think I've got it now. Okay. Do you see that?
Yeah. There.
Okay, super. So thank you for the intro, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for your attendance. And like I said, I'm Kevin Reed. I'm with RLA Architecture. I'm also joined by Eric Bays of Stantec, the group that will be doing the planning for the proposed. And this is a presentation. This is part of an official plan amendment submission that we had made back in December of 2025. And now this is an abbreviated presentation so that it's a lot more digestible in the short time frame that we have. So just jumping right in, taking a look at the subject area. So you'll recognize Scott Street in this kind of northeast to southwest tangent here. And in mauve, we're highlighting the LRT station, the Westboro LRT station, and these kind of concentric rings coming out from that LRT station represent the 100-meter radius and the 200-meter radius. The subject areas that we're looking at
I think you might need to advance your slide. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, geez. Is it not showing the subject area right now?
No, we're looking at the title slide.
Oh.
It's
what are you looking at?
It's showing up as Bluebeam right now, Kevin. I'm not sure if that helps with you may have shared another screen or
okay.
another app.
Here, let me see if I can fix that. Let's see here. Is it showing a word policy?
It is.
It is.
Okay. So just going back one slide then. Let's see if we can get this going. It's having some technical difficulties here. Okay. Can you guys see the subject area there?
That we can.
Perfect.
Okay, super. It's not working for some reason. Presentation mode is not working with Zoom tonight, so I'm just going to have to go rogue here. So again, Scott Street is in that kind of northeast to southwest. The LRT station in that purple, and those concentric rings of the 100-meter and 200-meter radius. Or radii, and then the gold represents the subject area that we're looking at tonight. And just advancing this here, we're going to just jump right into some policy documents and some policy discussion. Let's see if we can get that going. So I'll hand this over to Eric if you're able to kind of take this, and then just let me know, Eric, when you want me to advance.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kevin. There's a lot of stuff that we want to get through today, so I'm really just going to talk about how land use policy writ large, how the pieces fit together. And once people have questions, we can get into maybe some of the nuts and bolts and try and answer those at that time. But I think there's sort of several layers of planning policy that we all sort of like we all live in here. And the first one is a provincial planning statement issued by the province, as the name would imply. And it really provides direction to all planning authorities across the entire province, including the city, on how land use planning should be completed. It's fairly broad, but it has a couple overarching themes that are fairly consistent, regardless of whether you're in Ottawa, Toronto, any other municipalities. And it really talks about focusing on ensuring that we make efficient use of land, of resources, and of existing infrastructure that's in place. It specifically tries to guide development places to maximize the use of public transit, to achieve efficient use of land and infrastructure, and to support conditions that can create complete communities. The next slide, please, Kevin. There we go. Thank you. So in terms of the City of Ottawa's official plan, there's a few different layers to this as well. We're located within the inner urban transect, and it's generally the general intent is to transition into a more urban built form over time. And with that comes the other types of urban amenities, infrastructure, land use combinations that you see in a more urban environment. The designation for the lands are Main Street Corridor and Neighborhood. There's also an evolving neighborhood overlay that's located over it, and it's really intended to identify parts of the city that are intended to evolve and change, perhaps more quickly than other parts of the city over the course of the official plan's planning horizon. One other thing that I also do want to note is the proximity that we have to Westboro Station. This is something that's going to come up again and again through this meeting and through some of the answers that the team provides. We're literally across the street from Westboro Station. It's considered a rapid transit station under both the city's official plan and provincial policies. And this means that there's minimum density targets. And specifically for this form of transit, the density targets are minimum densities are to be 160 residents and jobs per hectare. And then if you can switch to the next one, thank you. And then I'll talk quickly about the zoning, as has probably been seen in the news or other people are aware. There is a new zoning bylaw that's been put in place. We're going to be speaking to the current, I'll call it the still in place, but soon to not be in place zoning bylaw. There's two zones that we're looking at here. The first is a traditional Main Street zone. That's the TM 102. And then the second is a residential fourth density, and that's the R4UB zone. The TM zone is traditional Main Street zone. It permits a range of different commercial, residential employment uses. Generally, the zoning provisions permit a built form that is compact in nature with smaller setbacks to make more efficient use of lands. The R4 is intended for residential uses up to low-rise apartment. At that, I'll pass it back to you, Kevin. No, I will not quite yet, actually. Apologies. This one is also mine. So in summary, there's two applications that we're seeking right now. The first is an amendment to the Richmond Road and Westboro secondary plan. That's part of the official plan. It's one of the volumes of it. And that's to redesignate a portion of the site to Main Street Corridor. And then the second one is to reflect the proposed development in the zoning bylaw, be rezoning portions of the land TM, as well as tailoring the zoning to make sure that the building envelopes that you're seeing today are captured in the zoning provisions, and some of the other site design features are reflected as well. And now I'll pass it back to you, Kevin.
Thanks, Eric. That's great. So just getting back into the design intent, we have a number of overarching principles that we wanted to establish through the design process. And I'll just take you through those four major items. So we're really wanting to establish, kind of as Eric touched on, a transit supportive district. So we've got this great new idea that we can have other means of transportation in the city apart from cars. And a good way to get that working efficiently is to put the appropriate amount of people in proximity to it. So we're really wanting to build up the not only the density but the amenity and uses around these nodes. So really making that one of the primary objectives of this proposal. Promote and enhance pedestrian permeability. So it's not just about cars or trains. It's about improving the pedestrian experience when you're coming to and from the LRT station, or even if you're not going to and from the LRT station and you're just using some of the proposed amenities that are a part of this this project or proposal. Really wanting to strengthen the existing connections in the neighborhood, but also create new connections. And you'll see that in the design concepts that we're about to entail. Establish a true mixed use community. So Richmond Road to the south, Wellington Street, there's all these places of great shops and places to grab what you need when you're coming to and from work, or just strolling through the neighborhoods. But we're really wanting to not only establish housing or office space in these areas, but wanting to have a layer of commercial use, commercial opportunity in the podiums of each of the proposed buildings, or at least strategically in those that are located along the corridor stretching from Scott Street to the north and Richmond Road to the south. Civic pride. So wanting to establish and engender this idea of civic pride through this this concept of placemaking. So it's not just about buildings, it's about treating the public realm with a high level of fit and finish. And to have, when you get off the LRT at Westboro Station, and it has this idea of destination, of experience, and that it has the scale and materiality of that goal. So looking at the design concept, again, we're returning to that kind of aerial view. And then we kind of overlay this diagram. So again, having those subject areas, those parcels in gold, and then establishing this network of east-west, I guess you could say an experience of these public or urban spaces in the city, or public rooms. So at the right-hand side of your screen, there's a potential this parkland along McCrae Street, and then just to the left of that and south of the C parcel is a proposed parkland dedication, that second green space. And then that linkage, that kind of, you can see that orange kind of meandering line that goes east to west on the page. Through the midsection of the proposed development is that multi-use pathway connecting Athlone and Tweedsmuir. So you have this direct link now from east to west, connecting people towards the east in a corridor, a more kind of direct corridor towards Lions Park to the west at the left-hand side of your page. Not only that, but we'd like to really reinforce this kind of gateway condition on Tweedsmuir. Tweedsmuir is the wider of the two streets. And we see in that kind of that diagram, that green shaded partial kind of takeaway of the A1 property towards the north. Those are really good spaces for commercial use, we see, not only because they're directly adjacent from the LRT station, but they're because of that deepened kind of sidewalk condition along Tweedsmuir. We could see an opportunity for commercial uses kind of spilling out to the street on that side. The concepts that you're seeing here are old. We've been collaborating with the city, both the planning and the urban design group, on a number of concepts that take a look at a range of scales and um, I guess you could say development over time, phased kind of development, and also dealing with concepts of transition and scale and opportunity and use. So a lot of these concepts we've been kind of working back and forth in the city of Ottawa, and eventually we've landed on this one. So as mentioned at the top of the presentation, so there are 3 high-rise proposals, 29 street, or sorry, 29-story building to the left-hand side of your screen, and to the right-hand side, and then a 40-story right across from the LRT station along Scott Street, and then you have that kind of linchpin development, that 4-story row housing. Proposal in the A2 parcel right in the middle of your screen at the bottom, connecting Athlone and Tweedsmuir. So taking a look at the context, some massing studies of both existing and future context. Everything that you see in that kind of mauve color is either built or under construction. And then what you see in blue is a part of proposals that are in, I guess you could say, the approval phase. Some of them have already been approved through zoning. And then the subject sites you can see are in gold. And then the LRT station is in the foreground in the red there. So this is starting from a view from that north west aerial view. And here I'm just going to advance it. This is from the northeast. And as we move around, you can see this is from the southeast. And then taking more of an aerial view, you can see that kind of reinforcing of that cross grain, that east-west connecting of those urban rooms, those urban spaces, as they kind of skirt the southern portion of the proposed development. And then taking a look as we swing around to the south and then the west. And again, you have that good kind of overview of the condition that you have, that east-west connection, the pedestrian connection, and the LRT station towards the north at the left. These are some rendered views. So this is taking a look from the north, that LRT station in the foreground, the 40-story, the A1 proposed tower in the foreground as well. And this idea that the podium can take on a more kind of, I guess, contextual materiality using masonry. And as you kind of rise up above that kind of that podium level, becomes a differential experience in materiality and detailing. And this is that kind of nighttime view, more of a ground level view from the LRT station, looking across that experience of the plaza, that privately owned public space on Scott Street. So you have that very high vaulted space, a lot of areas for gardens and plantings and places of repose along there. And then you have that deep sidewalk condition along Tweedsmuir as you travel south past the A1 parcel. Oh, I think I just missed one. No? Okay. This here is a view from the Lions Park. So now you're looking towards the north. This is that B building. This is that 29-story B parcel building. That taller 40-story building on Scott Street is towards the middle of your screen. And then the C building, which is also 29 stories, is in the background at the right. This is that 4-story, it's a view from that above the A2 concept. So this is that 4-story row housing, again connecting Athlone, which is in the background there, and then Tweedsmuir, which would be in the foreground. Lions Park would be in the background, that kind of haze there, and the B building just to your right. So really trying to um, bridge the scale of the mature neighborhoods to the south and what's occurring on Scott Street. So we feel like this is a really important part of the proposal, not only with that kind of transitional scale, but also the experience that you have using that multi-use pathway that crosses this site, this juncture. So again, it's not just about the buildings, it's about that public realm experience. And these are some kind of early diagrams that we devised to talk about some of those important conditions. So number one being that privately owned public space. And again, trying to make a bit of a landmark, this idea of placemaking, civic pride. So really having a high level of treatment and materiality at that place as you just emerge from the LRT station, or if you're just traveling along Scott Street, we have a deepened sidewalk condition so that you have the ability to take a break or just sit and read the paper and have your coffee. Number two is this idea of a deepened sidewalk along Tweedsmuir. Again, the possibility for seasonal commercial use, some dining, or kind of an outdoor, some market stalls, a place to buy your flowers, a bottle of wine on your way home from work. Number three is that parkland dedication just south of Building C. Place, again, not only for residents of the proposed, but residents of the existing neighborhood, creating green space where it doesn't exist on that street, and really trying to create this, again, this east-west linkage of spaces. So that green space on Tweedsmuir, this multi-use pathway connecting on the A2 site, and then that kind of gateway condition connecting through the B building site, and a gateway condition from that B building site to Lions Park. So really setting up that kind of DNA for positive pedestrian permeability. And it's not only about those kind of external street experiences. Sometimes you have the ability to create some interesting urban courtyard experiences. And it's yet to be determined, like depending on their treatment, are they semi-public, are they public spaces? But these can be interesting uses, like a small jungle gym, urban kind of play gym, or a place for just repose, a place to read the paper, or no one reads a paper anymore, just your phone. And then taking a look at an overview of kind of the same treatment, not necessarily thinking about the buildings, but really the public space and treatment, and how we can really stitch together the parcels with softscaping and hardscaping. The hardscaping, of course, being a really great way to tie together the parcels and the streets if you're on your bike or if you've got a stroller. And then that softscaping to really freshen up the experience and to just create a nice cooling effect across that urban experience as well. These are some public studies, public room studies that we did. This is taking a look at that A1 parcel right across from the LRT station. So again, that pop space in front of the A1, that deepened sidewalk condition, very tall, vaulted condition. So it's not only of the scale, but we're also offering kind of a modicum of shelter. So you actually could be under this in some inclement weather and still experience that kind of positive public space. And then that deepened sidewalk on Tweedsmuir, possibly having a layered condition where you don't have to necessarily feel compelled to interact with what's going on there. It could be that you're establishing these kind of passive buffers through planting between just coming and going, or from that kind of dining or commercial experience as you get further towards the building facade. And as we go down through that, we have some presentations of some renderings of that space. So this is that A1, that pop space that you see in the background. This is a vantage point from the north side of Scott Street looking back towards that space. And further down, Tweedsmuir, so this would be in front of the parcel, the C parcel building, which is just north of the parkland dedication. So you're looking towards the LRT station, you could see towards the north, and that deep sidewalk condition at the A1 parcel across the street. You can see that kind of layering up of the sidewalk condition on that side of the street that we were talking about. This is another, I guess you could say, public realm study that we did for the A2, that laneway housing. So this would be Athlone in the foreground to the left-hand side, Tweedsmuir towards, in the background towards your right. And really talking about not only just connecting streets, but creating kind of an active use. And really wanting to reinforce this idea. It's not only about just alternative means of transportation. Like this building doesn't have parking assigned to it necessarily. It's more, I think, setting itself up for that kind of that idea of alternative means of transportation and urban living. And really putting residents right on a multi-use pathway. So it creates this idea of eyes on the street. There are people within their kind of like private terraces that look right onto the multi-use pathway. I don't think it's an issue of kind of people feeling uncomfortable in proximity to each other, but actually reinforcing this idea of community and safety by being proximal to each other. And the next view is a rendering of that space. So again, you get an idea of the kind of the depth and the concepts that we're trying to put forth. And that's Tweedsmuir, you could see in the background there.
Kevin, if I may, it's
Sure.
7:30.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there are some more granular details of the type that I know neighbors are interested in, like how
Sure.
many parking spots and all that sort of stuff as well.
Absolutely, Jeff. I was just showing the pretty stuff. I'm on the last slide. This is just the parkland dedication, but I'd be willing to speak to any of the metrics, the statistics. If you guys want to jump right into questions, I'm ready to go, and I can navigate to anywhere in the presentation that might contribute to an understanding of what the questions or answers might be.
Perfect. I think I'd love to jump into that Q&A if Alice can facilitate that.
You bet. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. It was good timing, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. Okay, we're going to start number one with Evie. Some traffic related questions. Evie asks, why does figure 7 in the TIA not include traffic counts for the Scott Street and McCrae Avenue intersection? Was this intersection counted at all? And if not, why not? How can the city determine if mitigation is needed at Scott and McCrae without peak hour volume data? Jake, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm going to refer to Jake on that one.
All right.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Jake Barabay with Parsons. I'm the transportation engineer on behalf of the applicant. So please direct any questions you have for the TIA for me. Thanks for the question, Evie. I appreciate the text ahead of time to give some thought into this. Looking at the data from McCrae, the data is at least 10 years old now. Given where the TIA is located, so our site accesses onto Tweedsmuir and onto Athlone, McCrae wasn't seen as a critical intersection for this study. There's two developments on the corner of McCrae and Scott that would have addressed this in a prior study, but that is not really relevant for how it's going on out there right now. So it's something that could be looked at given the context of this study as well. I can't exactly speak to the city process for reviewing anything exactly with regards to those existing operations.
Okay, next question is around parking. question asks, I see that the original proposal called for 610 parking spaces divided by residential and commercial, I guess. And then the new proposal calls for only 568, 477 residential and 91 commercial. I regularly have neighbors without parking who are parking on the street, and then when there is a snow ban, have nowhere to park. It is admirable to try to convince people to reduce their use of vehicles, but it is not realistic. Related, how many spots will have charging capability for e-vehicles?
So I could take this question, or Kevin McMahon could take this question. Kevin McMahon, do you want me to take that, or do you want to take it?
You can go ahead and take it.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for that question. And I think parking numbers and EV charging stations are something that continue to evolve as we go through proposals like this. Usually, for projects, just speaking to the EV charging stations, projects of this scale, what we will do when we actually get further into the approvals process, more towards site plan, we will establish a minimum number of entirely fitted up EV charging stations, but we'll also provide the infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure to broaden the scope and services. So we'll make sure that the electrical services are available if more charging stations are required, but it's often the case that we won't deliver the full equipment for charging at the time of, say, a building permit or a site plan approval. So it's really making sure the capacity is there, and we have the ability to increase the number of charging station as we go through the building permit phase, which is kind of keeping pace with demand, I guess you could say. And to car parking station allocations, like again, there's more car sharing that's happening in the city. We're right across from an LRT station. So we feel like the ratio that we're landing on right now is a good balance between market demand and what the future of public transport infrastructure would want.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, the next two questions are from a resident on Tweedsmuir related to the linkage and green space. I'll start by reading the comment. It says, I live on Tweedsmuir. The connection from the McRae to Tweedsmuir Park makes no sense to me. There's barely any space from the fence to the building behind me. I can't see how you'd have space for a walkway. I'm also very concerned about total loss of privacy from people constantly walking by. And then the second part to that question is, I would also like clarification on the Tweedsmuir green space. In some diagrams, it showed as 100% green space square. It also at times reads like only half will be green space, with the other being like a patio. Please confirm what the design intention is. I have concerns with the building dominating or imposing on top of me.
Oh, okay. So in two-part question. So maybe we'll just talk about the multi-use pathway connecting Athlone and Tweedsmuir first. And I could see the concern, and I guess the only way to, I guess, explain our rationale is we're not just proposing something new. We're using precedents that exist across projects, both new and old. So we're using a 3.5 meter right of way through the site here, connecting the two streets, which is...
Sorry, Kevin, I think you're on the wrong. She lives at 337 Tweedsmuir, which is on the east side of Tweedsmuir. So it's the parkland area, not the
Oh,
up. Yeah.
okay. Sorry about that.
Jump in on you.
Sorry. Can you guys see the screen now? I'm showing the parkland dedication there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I guess the concern was you were thinking like there's not enough green space as well for the parkland dedication. what you're seeing here is just a concept. Because it's a parkland dedication, the city of Ottawa would work with us to we would produce what's called a facility fit plan, where we can provide the city with a number of options on how to produce a parkland. But ultimately, the city will be the arbiter of what happens there. We're only just showing some possibilities. And I think what we wanted to do was show just a mix of uses for the parkland. So really just mixing both hardscape and softscape, and this idea that it could be a place of repose or connection, or a place where you could just take your dog. So this is not necessarily a concept that says this is what it has to be. This is just saying this is what it could be. The other thing is, with the parkland dedication here, we're really setting up quite a healthy transition between those first properties to the south of this and the proposed high rise to the north. I think we're in the range of about 43 meters separation from the parcel to the south and the high rise to the south or to the north, which is more than double what the high rise design guideline mandates for the city. So I think we're providing a fairly adequate level of transition. So hopefully that answers your question and addresses some of the concerns.
Just before moving on, the other concern was a connection through to the McRae Park, which in some of the plans is shown as a hypothetical future state. So there's no, in the current plans that we have in front of you, there's no proposed connection to that park. That's just something that could evolve over a period of time.
Yeah, I guess this is the diagram connection there. Yeah, this is sorry, I was mixing that up with the multi-use pathway, Kevin. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next couple of questions. The next one reads, the 4-story row housing would be surrounded by 29-story and 40-story apartments on how many sides? If so, there will be no privacy if there are multiple windows / balconies looking down on this space. Is this correct? And then the next question is linked in that it asks, do any of the apartments have balconies?
So thank you for the question. I guess the only place within the building that would feel like it would have people looking in on it is this rooftop amenity. But aside from that, the building has a very kind of east to west orientation with these kind of these slotted windows. So I'm just going to jump ahead to these views here. Here, I'm just going to go to the study here, the 3D study. So a lot of the larger apertures for the A2 building are kind of these clerestory, these north-south kind of slot windows looking more towards the west. And then we have these more discrete openings, more of a kind of a conventional scale looking south. There are some balconies on the ends facing the street. So this is the one facing Athlone that you see in the foreground. But this is a condition that you find in a lot of urban spaces where you mix low rise and mid rise and high rise. So I think people, when they live in these homes, I mean, I live in the downtown next to high rise buildings in an old house here. And even though I live next to high rise buildings, I don't think about people looking down onto the house here, but I suppose it happens. But it's the contract that I signed for living, I guess, in the downtown. So I guess it wouldn't be a condition that's distinct from a lot of other places in the city.
Okay, next we have another traffic question. The question reads, will the traffic be able to run in both directions on Athlone and Tweedsmuir? What do you anticipate the traffic impact might be on neighboring streets?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the transportation impact study did address this. So we will have traffic in both directions from the development on Athlone and Tweedsmuir. I'm not sure if we don't have any accesses here, but there's accesses on Athlone and on Tweedsmuir for each of the phases. We do have traffic going both northbound and southbound on each street, and that traffic increase would be up to I'd like to quantify this in one vehicle every 3 minutes on Tweedsmuir and Athlone, heading in the peak direction. That's a quantification I really like, and that's during the peak hours, so their peak morning or peak afternoon kind of increase. So we do have an opportunity here for traffic calming on these streets. The site plan shows how some of these bulb outs are helped to reduce some of the traffic speed and mitigate those impacts. Sorry, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. The next question is a planning policy related question, and it reads, the planning rationale cites official plan policies 4.4.3b and 4.4.6.1, which emphasize that new park sites should be centrally located, designed for recreational use, and co-located with existing green space where possible. Can the applicant explain how the proposed park location meets these criteria and whether co-location with the existing Lions Park was evaluated as an option? I'd like to answer that one.
Kevin Reed, maybe you can start in terms of kind of discussing some of the previous concepts that we might have gone through, and then maybe I can add on and take a look at the kind of the policy and how it's written.
Sure. So as mentioned, thank you again for their questions. A lot of I'm only showing about 3 or 4 example concepts that predated the current proposed. And some of the concepts that we had explored with the city had a more distributed parkland dedication. So there were more parks, I guess you could say, smaller parks distributed across the other parcels. So it was almost like a 10% of each of the parcels across 3 and 4, and sometimes linking them together with, again, these multi-use pathways. What eventually came to be the landing spot for us was part of a collaboration with the urban design and parkland group at the city, where they really wanted a consolidated parkland, and the preference was to have it on Tweedsmuir. Apart from the parkland dedication, establishing some of these other kind of, I guess you could say, public amenities like the privately owned public space, but also this idea of really having opportunities for both Tweedsmuir and Athlone to have quick access to these parkland spaces. Athlone, of course, being super adjacent to Lions Park. So again, I'll go back to this this diagram here, which really talks about this idea of these urban spaces, these urban rooms. So wanting to set up this kind of temporal experience east to west of linking these rooms. There's that proposed parkland on McRae Street. And again, as Kevin alluded to, that there's no connection established right here as of yet, but it's not to say that it can't occur. But really wanting to set up this kind of successive experience of these rooms kind of east to west. And with the city wanting that kind of on aggregate parkland, which took 10% of all the parcels and really put them into, I guess, one most meaningful one on Tweedsmuir. It creates this kind of, I guess, balancing of parkland spaces on either side of the proposed development, with a good modicum of green space serving McCrae and Tweedsmuir, and then again that connection, that proximity of Athlone to Lions Park existing. So, sorry, over to you, Eric. Maybe you can speak to more of the policy side of things.
I think that's perfect, actually, and I think it's really the consideration. Many of the policies in the official plan, I find sometimes it's hard to actually apply them to a specific project. I think many of the policies related to parkland, really imagine when you're building new communities, greenfield communities, how do we want those arranged? How is that hierarchy of parkland to be sort of structured in these new communities? And oftentimes when we were building in existing neighborhoods and established parts of the city, it's really trying to figure out how can we create unique opportunities to respond to the existing built form, what type of plans might be put in place already, and then what type of very specific concerns could exist, and how could we create kind of small moments, small interventions that try to enhance the existing community, provide new amenities to the existing community that might be a bit different from the current ones, to provide a bit more variety in the types of green spaces. So we have Lions Park that is a larger green space. We have these green corridors that connect these streets together that provide kind of this network of green spaces that one are publicly accessible. And then we have this park on the east side that provides for a transition between some of the residential to the south and the larger massing of the proposed building. So it was sort of an intervention to help kind of provide that green space. That's a requirement, expectation of the city as part of this city building exercise, but to see if you can find a way to solve some other challenges at the same time.
And sorry, guys, just maybe if I might add, one of the other things is just that the parkland dedication is at 100% in the park space, but what's not counted on or counted in that is the amount of privately owned public space that's part of the proposal. Kevin, I don't know if you know the square footage of what is proposed, but if you add the two up and consider what is part of this in terms of public space, it's considerably more than the standard parkland dedication amount. And I think, one of the visions that we had with this project, I lived on Ashton Avenue for about 4 years. And to get to Farm Boy in the winter, you have to go west on Ashton out to Scott Street and down Scott Street back up McCrae. And so there isn't permeability east-west within that whole block, and it's really quite a long block. There is the cut through at the gymnastics center, but it's pretty narrow and not overly convenient if you're going to McCrae. So that was really a driving piece to it. We looked at options where the parkland space actually spanned between Athlone and McCrae to form kind of like a linear park, but that was not a preferred option from the city. So we tried to provide an option that met their criteria, but also still provided that additional public space.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question, I think is more of a comment, but I'm going to read it. The R4 zone is intended to support low to mid-rise residential intensification that is compatible with surrounding neighborhoods. While the corridor from Tweedsmuir to Athlone is showcased, the 29 floor tower will affect the quality of Lions Park. The next question is related to Winona, and it reads, there is a street beside Churchill called Winona. I see some serious impacts on Winona and Ashton Street with proposals of 3 towers in that small area on Scott. There seem to be 2 towers facing each other. This development and the Granite Curling Club project. How will the parking be accessed for these towers given the proposal in front of us today?
Sorry, are they asking about the projects on the curling site plus the 2050 Scott?
It's
Because
not
Winona is further down. That would be the building that's going up, the Azure building, and then there's the concept for the curling club, and then there's another concept that's been rezoned for 2050 Scott. It almost seems like they're asking questions about how parking is accessed for those, which
perhaps
I
if
I
you
don't want
could,
to I don't want to speak on behalf of other
Yeah.
developers. I don't know enough about them, and it sounds like there may be even some evolving
Right.
concepts for those.
Okay. I see that Jean-Charles has his hand up. For everyone else's benefit, Jean-Charles Renault is the one of the city planners on this file, and he has joined us tonight. Did you want to go ahead, JC?
Sure, thanks, Alice. And without stealing focus from this meeting, just to quickly answer the question, the curling club site, the proposed parking access would be along Scott Street, about midway between Athlone and Winona Avenue. That's as it's currently proposed.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next question. There is an existing plan for the Athlone Street, for Athlone Avenue, including curbs, traffic calming, and narrowing for sidewalks. Is the traffic calming plan going to be maintained given that Athlone is to include a 29-story building?
Sure. I'll take this one. So for those who are aware, the Athlone, among other streets of Lincoln, Edgewood, and Eden are up for integrated renewal. So Athlone will be redesigned as a 30K street with a series of traffic calming measures. The proponents had a few discussions with the Athlone team, and that's going ahead as far as we are aware. And they've integrated our access locations into their plans, so they're aware of what we're doing. But we're not can't really completely speak to how their plans have changed.
Next, when did 40-story towers become the new norm on Scott Street? This plan is proposing 40, and the other development beside it is proposing 40, and no doubt the one beside that will go to 40. Please inform us if this has been approved and why the increase from 26 to 28, which are the heights in place today.
It's good that JC's on the line. JC, do you want to take that one, or I don't know if that's something that maybe the proponent or the design team should take, because it's more having to do with city approvals.
I can start maybe
Go
with it, but Mr. Renault, do feel free to cut me off, as you deal much more deeply in this on a day-to-day basis than I do. So I think there's a couple different layers of really how developments evolved in the city. Some of it is policy related. Some of it is the challenges and the costs that are associated with building, and the challenges that many proponents are running into with that. And I can speak mostly to the policy component. So when the city prepared their new official plan back through the 2020s, eventually getting approval by the ministry in 2022, one of the challenges that we ran into, and by we I mean planners writ large, but particularly those at the city, was trying to accommodate what the projected growth was going to be of the city. We don't have the ability to control how many people move in, move out of the city. We can only try and find out how many people we expect are going to, and try to figure out where do we want those people to live, and where do we want to build new homes for people who are moving to the city. And what we found is that by the year 2046, so 20 years from now, the city's population is expected to be about 1.5 million people. So about 400,000 more people are supposed to live in the city of Ottawa by then. And that's been validated by Ministry of Finance numbers that came out more recently as well. So we're trying to accommodate that through a couple different ways. One is by trying to permit more infill in communities, things like replacing detached dwellings with small low-rise apartments, semi-detached, some growth on the outside of the city through new communities and urban boundary expansions. But a lot of the focus has been on how can we try and leverage the areas of the city we have already that are walkable neighborhoods that have access to high priority transit like Line 1, Line 2. And how can we really try and focus development in these areas to try and accommodate that growth. And part of that has resulted in higher uh, higher uh, building proposals, taller building proposals as well. Um, the other challenge that has been coming up in different projects across the city is ballooning costs. Construction costs have increased significantly since the pandemic. It started with supply chains disruptions, which seem to be continuing, although not quite as bad as during that period of time. We're seeing trade shortages as well, and it's really squeezing project viability in a lot of cases, especially for smaller projects or projects that may have had lower heights previously. Mr. Renault, Mr. Reed, I'm not sure if either of you might be able to comment any more on those.
Nothing else
Yeah,
on my end.
I the if there's a concern about 40-story buildings, I would also say there's a concern about 40-story buildings on the development side because they're very hard buildings to build. They're very hard buildings to financially support. So just because some of these buildings are getting 40-story approvals doesn't mean they end up being 40 stories because it's a lot of money to build something like that. So um, it it's an evolving landscape, both in terms of the genealogy of some of these thoroughfares in the city and these infrastructure nodes, but there's also uh, there's a financial um, um, uh, basically model that is still being tested, I think, in some of these areas, and it's not as easy to get to some of these heights that are approved as you might think. So something also to think about. Alice, are
Alice,
you
you're
on mute?
muted.
Sorry, thank you. The next one is a comment regarding green space. It reads, I have seen builders conveniently forget or modify the plans for the green spaces after approval. I like the green space idea. It is critical to me being positive about this project. Next question is a comment. It reads, the wind speed between so many towers will be horrible. Can anyone on the panel speak to the wind studies that would have been done as part of the application?
Sure. We have had some initial modeling conducted of the proposed. It does create some areas where we would need to, I think, address some downwashing effect from some of the buildings proposed, but that's not to say that they're negatively impacting the street experience. Probably the most, I guess you could say, susceptible areas for wind experience and turbulence would be at the podium levels, where the building transitions from high rise to the podium form. And we often mitigate that through, as we get further into building designs, like through site plan approval and building permits, we'll continue to work on the tectonic of the building, like the details to mitigate those that downwashing effect. And you do this with canopies or trellises, or just changing the face of the building through projections like balconies and devices that will break up some of that downwashing effect. So it's at a concept level which we're at, we feel like it's entirely manageable at this point.
Thank you. Okay. Next question relates to construction. It reads, the construction phase of a large-scale high-rise development is not a minor or incidental consideration. It constitutes a prolonged and material impact on adjacent properties and public spaces. Residents in proximity to multi-year construction are subjected to sustained excessive noise and vibration, fugitive dust and airborne particulate matter affecting indoor and outdoor air quality, diesel emissions from heavy equipment, construction waste accumulation and debris hazards, disruption to pedestrian routes, cycling infrastructure and emergency access, and increased heavy truck traffic and associated safety risks. What are your mitigation strategies? Any compensation for residents? Our house and cars are full of dust.
Perhaps I'll take this one.
Okay.
So this is at this stage of the process, those types of details would not have been developed because we're at the rezoning and official plan amendments phase. Once this project gets into site plan level of detail and getting closer to building permits, those sorts of details would be worked out, and there would, the developer would work on construction staging of equipment and the like, and there would be, compliance with city bylaws and standards throughout the building process, which the city does enforce and monitor as well. So it's just a little early in the process. We can't give you specific answers, but when we get to the site plan phase of a project, that's when those types of questions, there would be enough information to start answering them.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, the next question is from a neighbor at 346 Tweedsmuir. It reads, we have a child who is picked up and dropped off by a wheelchair bus. Currently, we have a build going on beside us, and between construction vehicles, increased traffic, and snow loads, treating Tweedsmuir as a thoroughfare, we've had issues with the bus being able to park in front of our home. I'm wondering how our son's bus will be accommodated during construction on such a scale. Is there discussion about Tweedsmuir and Winona becoming a one way to accommodate so many builds? Is there consideration about how to manage the turns at Tweedsmuir and Richmond or Scott to handle the changes we've seen over the last 15 years?
I'll take this one. Thanks for the comment, and always appreciate hearing the accessibility concerns, because there's certainly challenges there. We can't speak to construction, as Steve mentioned, but we haven't heard anything about one ways at Tweedsmuir or Winona. We did not address that in our transportation study, as it didn't seem to be very palatable. Similarly, so Tweedsmuir at Scott is now a pedestrian signal. We don't believe the city has any plans to make any modifications to that intersection. And Tweedsmuir Richmond is a stop control. So again, we don't see the volumes or city plans to make modifications to create a signal at that intersection right now.
The one other item that I might add is to Steve's point as well. It is too early for us to be figuring out the staging and the phasing of construction, but the parking matter for those who are working on the site is something that would be considered under a construction management plan.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Next, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of homes approved but not built. When would the applicant plan to begin construction?
I can take that. At this point, we don't have a timeline on construction. We've got to get through this process first, and as Kevin alluded to, these buildings right now in the current market are difficult to have a clear path forward, and so we continue to look at the market every day, and we are anxiously awaiting a time in the market where everything aligns, and that's a combination of construction costs, soft costs, interest rates, all of these things coming together and leading to a price point that we believe is the right price point, and we tend to try and be a little more on the affordable side, which makes it a little more difficult to achieve. But certainly our objective is to get these projects under construction as soon as possible, but the likelihood of all of them happening in the short term is remote at best. And so over the next little bit, we'll be evaluating which block makes the most sense to proceed with first, and going down that path as soon as kind of conditions warrant it.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is a traffic related comment related to the bus that comes down Tweedsmuir, the small school bus. I'll just read it out. On Tweedsmuir, it is my understanding that there is a disabled child who requires a small bus every morning and evening to go and return from school. During the heavy snowfall, the pickup apparently disrupts the entire street as a space for traveling up and down during their pickup and drop off. Putting in traffic calming will need to accommodate this and may also affect your construction vehicles getting up and down. Okay, next is a question related to parking. It reads, with the new planning and zoning removing parking minimums, will there be a look at removing most or all of the residential parking from this development, with it being so close to transit, to make it both more affordable and reduce traffic? You'd like to take that one?
I think I touched on it a little bit before, Alice. And again, thanks for the question. At this point, we're not assuming that the parking numbers that we've landed on are going to be what is eventually built. It's basically just it's basically a stand-in for where we think demand might be. You might as well, through the rezoning and the official plan amendment process, have that ability to have that as part of your pro forma. Again, we're still based on the number of people that we're proposing and the number of units. It's not like we're, I think, oversubscribing to car parking. And again, it's easier to, once we get that approval, to peel it back, as opposed to if we undersubscribe through the official planning process and then say everyone's driving an EV and there's more car demand, it's harder to increase those parking numbers as you get further through the approvals process.
Okay. Another traffic-related question. It reads, we say that there will be no meaningful traffic increase, but with the recent construction at Scott and Tweedsmuir, there are frequently garbage trucks on the street collecting the building's garbage. They do not use the driveways and do their work on the street. They block the traffic both ways. What is your plan for dealing with garbage removal? Will trucks be clogging up the street for your building also?
Kevin, maybe I'll flip this one to you, yeah?
Sure. Go ahead, Jake.
No, sorry, I say you take this one. Maybe just talk us through what you're thinking for waste collection at this stage.
Yeah, at this very high level, garbage and recycling is collected at all the P1 levels, the parking levels, the first parking level of each of the proposed. And then it would be collected, it would be brought up to street and collected at street level. Again, this is an official plan amendment. It's really dealing with the kind of the bounding boxes of the proposed sites. So I'll say it again, like through the site plan approvals for each of the parcels and each of the developments, you would get further into defining the functions and the uses and the fine print and um, all the, I guess you could say, the statistics of each of the site as it gets closer to an actual realistic build. So right now, the idea is that garbage and recycling is collected at the parking levels and it's pump trucked to grade. But that's not to say that things won't evolve and other means will be developed for each of the sites.
Thank you. Okay, the next question relates to tower separation with the adjacent site to the west. It reads, you don't appear to have enough tower separation with the Granite Club Tower on the corner of Scott and Athlone. Who would like to speak to that?
I could speak to that.
Okay.
So the word appear is in that query or comment, but I don't have it with me. But we are exceeding the tower separation for buildings of these heights. So we are based on the last proposal that we had worked with for the curling club site, the 2-tower proposal for the curling club site, we were 25 meters from that nearest tower. And again, for our buildings A1 to C and all the adjacent existing build form were again 25 meters or more from those buildings. So again, it sounds like the curling club site is possibly going through some adjustments, but we're playing nice on our side of the parcel.
And Kevin, just maybe to add to that, if you go back to the original design when we started working on this project, the curling club was actually a 3-tower design. And so what's proposed today actually meets the tower setbacks for that original 3-tower design, as well as the approved plan that was in place, I believe, in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. But I just wanted to note that.
Okay, next. There are always plans for development around transit stations, but we haven't seen that happen around existing stations like Tunney's or Bayview. There just seems to be no parking, no stopping for drop-offs, lots of bike theft around transit stations, traffic jams along Scott, unhoused people seeking warmth and shade. I just don't buy the promise of civic pride and placemaking around transit stations anymore. This is a comment. Number 2, your concepts show cyclists and pedestrians mingling. Please tell me that is not actually part of your concepts. And are you consulting cycling interest groups on how these spaces would best suit cyclists and cycling infrastructure? And then the next question is, and I think you've already addressed it, what is the timeline envisioned if all goes well for the 40-story? And I see the other 2 as comments. So we'll move on to the next question. Again, it's a comment around wind. Wind speed and tunnels are very much already felt at street level. Okay. Next, the idea of having dining and other well-used ground floor commercial spaces appealing, but we've seen a lot of empty storefronts and new developments in the area for years on end. Is there anything that can or will be done to incentivize commercial use at these sites so they look and feel like the photos you've presented?
Yeah, I could speak to a bit of that. It is becoming a challenge to program the ground floor of certain new construction projects, but I think what we're now exploring these in these recent years, especially after COVID, is taking a look at producing spaces that can be adaptive. So they don't necessarily have to have like a large, tenant, commercial tenant that we're relying on to fill up the space and to animate it. It could be that we're combining um, both amenity and commercial uses in more piloted kind of pop up style, so that it's more animated and useful 7 days of the week, as opposed to just 7.5 hours 5 days a week, and then it relies on again some large commercial tenant to make that space meaningful. So a lot of the projects that we're working on right now are exploring how best to fill up those spaces and make them best use for the people that live there and the people that live in the neighborhood. So that's something we're looking into right now.
And I might just add to that. I think one of the important pieces, again, that this development's over a timeline, and during that timeline, I think everybody hopes that LRT is up and running to the way it was envisioned to run, and so people will be, using that station a lot more frequently, which will bring people to retailers in these buildings that aren't relying on parking. That's one of the reasons why, the comment was about vacant spaces in these buildings for long periods of time. Ottawa has not adapted to retail the way other markets have, and that's simply because the pedestrian traffic doesn't warrant retail space the same way it does in downtown Toronto, where very few people are driving around, relatively very few people are driving around with vehicles to do their retail shopping. So, it's our hope that the density that's coming along Scott Street, and it's coming slower than I think everybody would like. Certainly, the development community would like to see projects move faster, and I think as more residents live in the area and can shop local, those retail spaces will become more vibrant and sustainable over the long term.
Thank you. Okay, and our last question that I'm seeing is from Angela, and it reads: Are these buildings all rentals, or will some units be owned by the residents, like condo purchases?
I guess I can take a stab at that. I think at this stage we're trying to design with flexibility in mind. It's not only residential, be it condo or rental apartments. Some of these buildings we're trying to design with the flexibility that if the office market were to ever come back in a meaningful way, I think employment is a really important piece to have located near transit, but also to enhance the neighborhood. So I think you see, we've certainly noticed since the Alterna and Pythian building was built on McRae, the lunchtime traffic at restaurants and coffee shops, I think, has increased pretty significantly, and that's I think an 80,000 square foot office building. So it adds people during the daytime in the neighborhood, which I think is a really critical part of a 15-minute community. So some of the buildings, notably the 40-story building on the corner of Scott and Tweedsmuir, designing that with some flexibility that perhaps the podium could have an alternative use, such as office or even hotel, is something that's really missing in our market. And the challenge sitting here today with any sort of certainty to give anyone is just the market conditions have to be viable for either of those uses. So we've had some preliminary discussions with some hotel franchises, and there's a level of interest in the neighborhood, but it's an unproven kind of market for that type of use. And the office market right now is really difficult to imagine building a speculative office building based on the availability of financing for that type of assets. Really, really challenging in today's market. But again, we're not trying to design this proposal to be something that is only today's vision. It's something over the course of several years. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions in the Q&A. So if there aren't any more, I think we're going to look at bringing things to a close and wrapping things up. But before we do that, I just wanted to note a couple of things. I just want residents to know that this isn't your only chance to submit feedback or ask questions. You can still submit comments to planning staff. If you go onto the city's development applications website and look at the applications, there's an opportunity for you to submit feedback there. And please also consider CCing our office on your comments, because we do see them all. And secondly, I'd like to thank the applicant team for coming tonight, and I'd also like to thank planning staff for joining us, and also really like to thank the residents for coming tonight and taking the time on a weeknight to join us. And also just a small reminder that we will have this recording up on our Kitchissippi Ward YouTube channel, hopefully by the end of the week. And if anyone has trouble finding it, please just write to our office at jeff.leapier@ottawa.ca, and we can share the link. Or like I said earlier, you can just do a search on YouTube with using Kitchissippi Ward. And I think that's it from me. Does anyone else have any final comments? Kevin, you've got your hand up.
Alice, yeah, sorry. I guess I should use the hand up on the Zoom, but there's just one other question that got added about what will be done if the site won't be developed for years. The site has, I believe, about 30 or 40 different residents living in it. We continue to rent out the spaces. Everybody that comes into a new unit is we explain the development is on the horizon, but we don't have a specific time. So our objective is to keep all of the buildings full and operational and great places for people to live. And so we have people moving in and out on a regular basis. So our intent is to keep the buildings occupied until there's development.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any closing comments, remarks, last chance? Okay.
The only thing I'd say, Alice,
Yeah.
is we did have a movie, like a fly-through of the project. Do you think it's worthwhile? Or, should I get a show of hands if if you guys want to see that?
Kevin,
I have it queued up.
Is it online?
Not yet, Jeff, but I think
How long is
there
it?
is. It's about a minute and a half.
Okay, let's run through it.
Yes.
And then feel free to leave once the video's over, or that'll be the last thing we do is run this video.
Right.
And I will just say thank you very much to residents for coming out. Obviously, Alice and I will be taking a look at the comments that you choose to copy us on very carefully. So, Kevin, take us out with a fly through. I'm very interested in this. I'm curious to see.
All right. Let's see here. See if I can cue this up here. So, are you guys seeing a bit of a still right now of the rendering?
We're looking at the master site
No,
plan.
it's the site plan.
Okay, here. Okay, just a sec. Okay, just a sec. See if I can get this back here. Okay, here we go. All right. Oh, it's in the way here. You can see that?
We can.
Okay, super. Sorry, it's buffering because we're taking it off the network. So, let's see if I have to. It's not loading very fast.
Kevin, what I'll do
Can I
is
circulate? I can circulate a YouTube link to your office. If
yeah,
that works.
I'd love to fire that out with my weekly newsletter next week
Okay.
or this week. So just send the link over and we'll do it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Jeff.
No, it's
we'll be better the next time here.
the video that's the next frontier for teleconferencing is getting streaming video to work.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, I'm going to hop off. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night to everybody who's still on the call.
Good night.
Bye now.
Take care.
Thanks,
Take care, guys.
everyone. Good night. Thank you. Bye.